Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to 2-Minute Talk Tips. This week's tip, use an event form for your events. And this should be a form printed on paper, because you never know when your batteries aren't going to be quite right, or you might need to hand it to somebody else, and dealing with that on a computer or a tablet or a phone can be a little challenging. So a simple one-sheet piece of paper that has key information for your event will make everything go more smoothly. That form should include all sorts of things for you, including your flight schedule, the flights you are taking to your event, along with the confirmation codes. It should have your travel agent's phone number and their after-hours phone number, so that if something goes wrong, you can make a call and get that addressed. You should have your hotel confirmation codes. You should have the confirmation code for your rental car. You should have the physical address for your hotel, and preferably some directions from the airport or your previous destination to your hotel as well. You probably also want to have your loyalty numbers in there, for example, your frequent flyer number or your hotel rewards number. You want the physical address for your event. You want the event time and date on there. You want to have the name of your organizer or host. And even more important than that, you need to know the name of your on-site contact. You also need cell phone numbers for that person. Having the number for the main location or the main office is great, but it doesn't do you any good if your event is actually supposed to begin before the main public office number opens up. And you also need to have the instructions about how to get into your event. You also want to go ahead and leave some room on there so you can make edits in ink as you go throughout the day. If there are changes you need to make, so you can cross something out and add something in pen, that's a great resource, which is also a reminder to bring a pen with you. Stick around, and after the break, we're going to talk about 5 more deadly sins of public speaking. Hello, and welcome back to another airport edition of 2-Minute Talk Tips. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about 2 of the public speaking deadly sins, going over time and droning on. This week, let's go ahead and continue that discussion and talk about 5 more. That means the 7 deadly sins of public speaking are droning on and on and on and on, going over time, starting late, failing to rehearse, ignoring the audience, getting dragged off topic, and using inappropriate language. For droning on and going over time, check out episode 49. I talked about those issues extensively, as well as offered some ways that you can address those problems. And those are actually things I talk about through a variety of other episodes, but episode 49 is the focus of those. So let's jump in with number 3. And that is starting late. You see, you really need to be ready to go at start time. That means you need to be mentally present. You shouldn't be fiddling around with your phone or trying to confirm a hotel or an airline reservation or revising your slides or having a separate conference call when it's time for you to speak. You need to be present, you need to be ready, and that may mean stopping whatever else you're doing a few minutes before, just so you can get focused and really be present and mentally ready for your talk. That means you also want to have your gear hooked up before the start of your talk. If you start at 10 o'clock, you shouldn't be at the projector at 10 o'clock trying to figure out how to connect your laptop. You should get that all taken care of before then. It's going to be next to impossible for you to finish on time if you start late. And just because your event is running late and the person before you ran overtime, that does not mean that you can go overtime to get all of your scheduled time. It's not always your fault that you can't start on time, but you need to do whatever you can to start on time, even if it's the preceding speaker's fault or the event's fault. You see, and here's the thing, too. When an event is running late, if you are the speaker who can get them back on track and back on time, they are going to be thrilled with you and with your professionalism. It's about showing respect, not only for your audience, but also for your host and your event organizing team. You don't want to compound any of the problems they were already having. You want to let them know that they can count on you and that they can trust you. The next deadly sin of public speaking is failing to rehearse. Rehearsing your talk is essential prep work for success. If you don't rehearse, well, first of all, you won't even know how long your talk is. So that's going to make it even harder for you to finish on time and start on time if you don't know exactly how long your presentation will take. You also won't know about any issues that are in your presentation. And that could be just words or phrases that are uncomfortable to your tongue and that you stumble and trip over. It could be rough transitions between sections of your presentation and between sections of your talk. You simply won't know about them until you encounter them in a live situation, and that's not where you want to encounter them because it's a lot harder to fix at that point. You also just won't seem as confident. You won't know your slides as well, and if something goes wrong, you won't be able to fix the problem as easily. And really, you won't be able to balance the rest of your presentation as well or as effectively. Rehearsal helps you address all of those things. The next deadly sin of public speaking is ignoring the audience. See, a presentation only exists in a specific point in time and space, and the audience is a part of that. They are part of the experience. You want to make sure that you look at the audience. Don't always be looking down at your slides or your notes. Look up at the audience. Make eye contact. If you're too uncomfortable to make eye contact, look at least at the bridges of their noses. You see, you don't want the audience to feel like they're just watching something on TV. You want them to leave there knowing they have had an experience. You want to acknowledge them, and whether that's going to be through Q&A or through other interactive aspects of it, you want to make them feel that you care and make them feel like they've been heard. The next deadly sin of public speaking is getting dragged off topic. This one can actually get a little tricky because sometimes you do have to change your topic. Major things can happen and you have to call an audible and make a last-minute change and modify things, either to address a particular audience need or a particular thing in the environment. But generally, the audience is there for the presentation you told them about, and you need to respect that. The other way you can get pulled off topic is if there are a few aggressive people asking very aggressive questions and trying to pursue their own agenda. But just because there's a vocal 5% in the audience, you should not let them drive the whole discussion. Aggressive Q&A can be challenging to deal with. It can pose a risk to keeping you on topic. So you need to take steps to disengage from angry people. Don't engage in arguments with your audience because you're not going to win. Figure out how to step away from those discussions. If somebody just won't let it go, ask them to come talk to you after the presentation. See, as the rest of your audience sees you trying to get back on track and trying to keep those aggressive questioners or argumentative folks in check, the audience will respect your efforts and they will be on your side. The vast majority of the audience will support you because they don't like that person in the audience either. Make the effort to stay on topic, keep it professional, and trust your audience. The final deadly sin of public speaking is using inappropriate language. There are a lot of elements to inappropriate language. Obviously in this time of Me Too and Time's Up and greater awareness of workplace harassment issues, there's some very simple things there to be aware of. If you have a joke or a humorous story you want to tell that's potentially inappropriate, don't tell it. You're better than that. You don't have to do that. A little bit of humor is not going to be worth alienating big chunks of your audience. So make sure that any stories you tell are in fact appropriate for the audience and for the situation, especially with trends that are happening today in corporate communications. Does that mean you shouldn't use any swearing or curse words? Well, maybe. That is really going to depend on the audience and on the environment you're talking to. You see, and the key thing there is that you have to know your audience. You have to do the research to understand what is going to resonate with them and what is not. You want to choose stories that are going to be appropriate for your audience. Because choosing those stories is not just about not being offensive. It's about making them relevant, making sure the content makes sense, making sure all of that stuff matters. Inappropriate language is about more than just, the words you can't say on TV. It's about the subtext, it's about the stories, it's about the concepts, and it's about knowing your audience and what is going to work with them. Do your research and know it. So, that's it. Those 7 deadly sins of public speaking, again, are droning on and on, going overtime, starting late, failing to rehearse, ignoring an audience, getting dragged off topic, and using inappropriate language or stories. Are there any speaking deadly sins that I missed? If so, go ahead and tell me in the comments for episode 51 at 2minutetalktips.com. Do you have an interest in stroke recovery and rehabilitation? Please subscribe to my other podcast, Strokecast. You can find it in most popular podcast applications and at strokecast.com. Next event that you do, make sure you prepare in a form for that event with all your key information. And finally, don't get best. Get better. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.